second hearing dealing with the January 6th committee. It was high drama. And we probably, this is where we can use my hashtag. We tried to tell y'all Trump was a grifter. The committee laid out that essentially he just took $250 million from donors for no purpose whatsoever. And there's no committee. There's no legal defense fund. Here's some of today's testimony.
My colleagues and I don't want to spend time talking about ourselves during these hearings, but as someone who's run for office a few times, I can tell you at the end of a campaign, it all comes down to the numbers. The numbers tell you the winner and the loser. For the most part, the numbers don't lie. But if something doesn't add up with the numbers, you go to court to get resolution. And that's the end of the line. We accept those results. That's what it means to respect the rule of law. That's what it means to seek elective office in our democracy. Because those numbers aren't just numbers, they're votes. They're your votes. They are the will and the voice of the people. And the very least we should expect from any person seeking a position of public trust is the acceptance of the will of the people, win or lose. Donald Trump didn't. He didn't have the numbers, he went to court. He still didn't have the numbers, he lost. But he betrayed the trust of the American people. He ignored the will of the voters. He lied to his supporters and the country. And he tried to remain in office after the people had voted him out, and the courts upheld the will of the people. This morning, we'll tell the story of how Donald Trump lost an election and knew he lost an election, and as a result of his loss, decided to wage an attack on our democracy, an attack on the American people by trying to rob you of your voice in our democracy, and in doing so, lit the fuse that led to the horrific violence of January 6th, when a mob of his supporters stormed the Capitol sent by Donald Trump to stop the transfer of power.
Put my panel in here. Jason, it was a hilarious day. I mean, here's the deal. This is what we are seeing. And this dude is grifter in chief. I mean, all these Fox News people, they're whining and complaining about the committee hearing. It's Trump's own people who are sitting here blowing out his lies. It's his own people that are making it clear that he was the one who was delusional. You can yell, holler, and scream that this is liberals. No, this is his own people. Jason, you're on mute. Jason, you're on mute. Jason, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. And man, I was just really into
it. Look at you, University of Maryland. You can't even work the mute button. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I'll just say that, the interesting thing about the Fox people is that they're all wrapped up in this. They were the ones texting him knowing it was wrong. So, they're clearly aware of Donald Trump's lies. And, when you look at all of the things that have come out, Bill Barr basically saying, of course, we all know he said that it was all BS, but Bill Barr also throwing water on Dinesh D'Souza's film, the 2000 Mules, which, by the way, I also threw water on when I interviewed him on my podcast, showed him. And even my conservative counterpart was like, this doesn't add up. So, I mean, it was comical, and it's kind of sad that some of these people, and I've looked on Twitter, it seems like they are silent about the fact that he took that $250 million, said he was going to pay for legal expenses, and just used Rudy Giuliani, and, and there was basically pocketed the money. I mean, there's no accounting for that money. And you would think that people would be livid about that. But we'll see how things shake out and how people actually respond to it, knowing that their money there in a time where they're complaining about inflation. They're complaining that they can't actually fill up their gas tanks. We all are. But yet, they gave their hard-earned dollars to Donald Trump, and he pocketed it, a guy who's worth billions. So I'm wondering how those people in West Virginia will be able to deal with that, with knowing that. Those people in Alabama who don't have a lot of money or working on fixed income but believe in Donald Trump's lies. Number one, knowing that it's a lie, and number two, knowing that he took their money. The billionaire Manhattan socialite took the working class guy in Alabama and in Mississippi, took their money and basically grifted them. We'll see how they react to this.
Look, Jeff, I said point blank, if you were dumb enough to send any money to Donald Trump, you deserve to get ripped off. If you were that stupid to send that fool any money for a legal defense team for no reason whatsoever, okay, he lost the election. And these idiots are running around saying, oh, the Dominion machines lie. I mean, we had lie after lie after lie. And the thing that got me the most, his own people were afraid to tell him, like, well, no, sir, I just disagree. Nobody had the sense to say, Trump, shut the hell up. You sound like a damn fool. You lost.
Well, he got rid of the people who were trying to tell him that it was idiotic. Bill Barr testified to that. Bill Barr's testimony was so full of expletives that they just had a continual bleep button because he told him that this was not going to work. But as Dr. Jason said, he started turning to people like Rudy Giuliani. As far as the people who supported Trump in this grifter scheme, I think about the song from DJ. It's hard out here for a pimp when he's trying to get this money for his rent. And these people out here are buying it hook, line, and sinker. I talk about it all the time. There's a difference between fact and belief. Once you convince somebody to be a believer, they no longer care about the facts. It harkens back to what Dr. Kimbrough was saying, brother Dr. Kimbrough. He was saying that he's got numbers in front of him, and you're trying to tell people about what HCOs and BCUs are dealing with, and they're still saying, no, I don't believe that. And listen to the language, I don't believe it. Trump was able to convince people that somehow he was robbed of an election. These people still believe it, even to this day, because they are true believers. Everybody else is a non-believer. They got $250 million that they put into his account. He's not going to have to account for it to the people who believe in him and believe in the nonsense. And he's just sitting back saying, Ariza, should I save her? And all the people who follow him are screaming with their dollars, throwing at him, I want to be saved. So when you get people who will give their money behind belief in this way, it's hard to feel sorry for them in the end, because everybody with common sense and facts has been saying this all along. And now you got, and you have to deal with it.
Matthew Morgan was a Donald Trump campaign lawyer. And even he said his ass lost. Watch this.
Yep.
Generally discussed on that topic was whether the fraud, maladministration, abuse, or irregularities, if aggregated and read most favorably to the campaign, would that be outcome determinative? And I think everyone's assessment in the room, at least amongst the staff, Mark Short, myself, and Greg Jacob, was that it was not sufficient to be outcome determinative.
Julian, they were dealing with a childish idiot who could not accept the fact that he took a big ass L.
There you go. This has been fascinating. I almost didn't get out of my house this morning trying to watch this and make my lift and do all that, because it was fascinating. The fascinating thing about it, let's call one name, Rudy Giuliani. When the guy said, the dude was clearly inebriated, talking stuff, let's just say we won. So you got a drunk fool and a quasi sober fool. So you had a conference of fools, essentially, with all the other people saying, excuse me, but you lost. Excuse me, but you lost. But he didn't want to hear it. But the bigger thing is we look at the people who gave him money, $250 million, $250 million. And this is a wealth transfer from the poor to the wealthy. But I'm not sure how wealthy Donald Trump is, because I think he needed that $250 million. I mean, when we have yet to have the full accounting of what he's worth, what he lost, what he stole, but just the whole fascinating layer of this. I commend Liz Cheney. I have new respect for her and Benny Thompson, who's been doing a really great job. But the most important thing here is that there's some Americans who are fools. So Rudy and the Orange Orangutan had their little fools conference. There were enough people with $250 million to want to join the council of fools to say, we're going to support this man who has never supported us. I mean, it sort of echoes the question that I raised with our previous guest, with the brother for West Virginia. How do you vote against your own self-interest? Donald Trump puts himself out there as a man of the people. What people? The fact is that, you poor white people, he's not going to have his grandchildren playing with your children. He's not going to have you at Mar-a-Lago. He looks down on you. He has commodified you, and he has taken whatever he can from you. And you continue to support him, continue to vote for him. I'm not sure that these people minds are being changed as watching this stuff on television. I think that many of them have their minds made up. They believe that he's okay. And the word that we haven't mentioned in this conversation, Roland, is race and whiteness. What he has done is he has become basically the standard bearer of white. I don't want to call it supremacy anymore. Somebody pulled my coat the other day and said, stop saying white supremacy. They're not supreme. But, white idiocy to think you're supreme. But he's the white man. And because he's the white man, you see all kinds of insanity, like someone who voted against Juneteenth because they said having Juneteenth was like having critical race theory. I mean, give me a break. But this is the ideology that has been promoted by the Orange Orangutan.
Well, Jason, Jeff, and Julian, and this will be the final round of questions here. The thing that as I'm watching this, and I get it how they are structuring this. It's now coming across if it's a second impeachment, and I get how they are methodically laying this out, but I still believe that one of the biggest mistakes is making January 6th all about Donald Trump and not the fact that you have an entire party, you have more than 150 House members. You've got U.S. Senate members who went along with this, who were very much involved, and those folks are still in power. If you keep trying to make this just about Trump, Jason, it isolates him from the other individuals. When what we're dealing with January 6th is an entire party apparatus that now is beholden to the obscene craziness of this delusional man.
I couldn't agree more. And, I think Trumpism in some ways is outgrowing Trump. When you look at some of the primaries, of course, the primary in, I believe it was Tennessee, the primary certainly, or Nebraska, I'm sorry, and the primary that we saw in Pennsylvania, where, his endorsements weren't working. He got booed on that tour with Bill O'Reilly. I think Trumpism is starting to outgrow Trump. And I think that, though, that this committee is building up to this. They're going to talk about the 10 or so GOP House members, and I think even maybe Senate members who were looking for preemptive pardons from the president, from the former president. So I think they're going to build up to make this bigger than just Donald Trump, but also to show that he is the orchestrator. And I think that they also recognize that he is eyeing 2024. So I think you have to take him down to a certain degree and show the threat that he is to democracy. And, that's necessary because I think for his ego, he really wants to be president, and he will come back in 2024. And if you don't take him down, I think he's got a chance. So I think that they see it as a patriotic duty Go ahead. Sorry.
But I think here, Jeff, is that look, they are running people for secretaries of state, election supervisors. They are trying to put in the infrastructure to control electoral outcomes. This thing is not Donald Trump. Yes, Trump was the ringleader, the circus master behind all of this, the one who was sitting here doing all the crazy things. But the reality is this thing has infected, it has affected, and it's going to have an effect on the 2022 midterms and 2024. And so that's why it solely cannot just be about him.
Well, absolutely. I think to Dr. Jason's point, Trumpism is particularly dangerous because he holds the cards psychologically. A lot of these people who are organizing the Republican Party now and organizing in every space, we're talking about from the presidential appointment of judges across the board to state houses redrawing election lines and gerrymandering districts that were primarily Democratic before. We've seen that's happening in Tennessee. We've also seen that, as you said, they're electing officials, Republican committee members locally. They're even organizing to run candidates and to fund them with dark money to run for local school boards. So this is a complete systemic taking over the Republican Party. And yes, at some point, the Trumpism is outgrowing Trump. However, we can look at this two different ways. Number one, if we focus the January 6th hearings on Trump alone, you could actually give him martyr status, and you could actually make this movement worse. The commission's job, and Benny Thompson's doing an exceptional job at leading this through, is to discover what happened with the riots, what happened, who was behind them, and who was a participant in it, and how they were helped. Because one of the biggest questions that we haven't gotten to is how this many people were able to breach the Capitol without law enforcement being present. So that means that somebody else was a part of this. There were other people other than Trump. There were people who were working in the government. There were people who were working in politics who were also a part of that too. So it's my hope that this is going to expand and we are going to be able to catch the people who are culpable, hold them accountable. Even while we see the images of this riot, keep in mind that in spaces like Tennessee, the Republicans are launching initiatives to make it a felony for homeless people to camp or to hang out in governmental spaces. Notice that many of the people who were arrested in the January 6th riots, they are charged with misdemeanors. Why is that important? Because if you're a homeless person who gets their life together, but you were convicted of a felony of sleeping on the state capitol or protesting on the state capitol, you no longer have a vote. Meanwhile, many of the images and the faces that we see represented in this riot, because they're charged with misdemeanors, they will be able to vote and hence look toward 2024. So it's a delicate balance. We want to make sure that we don't turn Trump into a deeper folk hero with the people who believe in the Trumpism, and then we were able to, at the same time, share the blame, share the responsibility, and convict everyone who had a role in making this happen.
As I look at this thing unfolding, Julian, again, when you look at the Steve Bannons of the world and what their strategy is, I mean, these people are sick and demented. But what they are doing is they are mobilizing and organizing. That's exactly what I said on Tiffany Cross's show on Saturday. I think, folks, if you missed it, you can see it on our YouTube channel or the Black Star Network app. But that's where they are. And you can watch this, and folks can be tweeting about it and posting about it. But the reality is, we're going to have to understand that these folks are playing for keeps. They're not joking around, and we've got to be there as well.
Roland, it's a mistake to think of 2016 election as the beginning of Trump. I think we have to go back to 2008 and look at the election of President Barack Obama as a beginning of Trump.
Gotta go back further. Gotta go back further.
I agree with
you. Gotta go back further.
I want to start. Oh, yeah.
Trump is nothing more Ronald Reagan was simply an outgrowth of black success in the 70s. And he ran on a white nationalist platform as well. Donald Trump is simply a continuum in this whole thing that I call white fear. But you're absolutely right. It was the election of Obama that actually caused these white people to go, oh my God, America is changing. Demographics are changing. And so, absolutely. And Donald Trump is their great white hope. He is their Jerry Cooney to Larry Holmes.
He precisely is exactly that, and he's been that, and he's played that. Remember him coming down that escalator, whatever it was, talking about Mexicans, calling Mexicans rapists. He has used the race card throughout. He's used it throughout his career as well, even as he sucked up and grinned at black people. I met Donald Trump actually at a party for Maya Angelou that Oprah held in Florida. And it wasn't at Mar-a-Lago, but it was somewhere. And he was there, grinning and smiling. But he's always used black people, black symbols to get access. But he has never been about black people. We know that. We know all of this. But here's what we don't. One thing I want to say to Jason, you say that he's doing this stuff for his ego. Jason, he's doing this stuff for his pocketbook. I mean, he has figured out a way to make money out of politics. The $250 million is just the tip of the iceberg. Praise the Lord to Tish James. Praise her for going after the details of this man's money. When we finish, we will find out that not only has he looted the United States Treasury, but everything else he could put his sticky fingers in and pull some money out of. So his ego, yes, but really his economics, because he's not the financial genius that he would let us believe that he is. Instead, he's basically no better than one of the homies from the hood who will snatch your pocketbook out while you're standing on the corner with your bag unzipped. We need to really deal with this, and it is, beyond. Trump may have outgrown Trump, but Trump becomes their symbol. The people who would replace him will be like the DeSantises of the world. And that's scary, too. What we have to really deal with is what our country is looking like and how we can educate our working class white brothers and sisters. And Reverend Barber is doing a great job of it, but there's just not enough of them who even go to a poor people's campaign. Because guess what? They don't believe they poor. They may be broke. They may have to pay $5 plus for gas, but they still think they're better than us and that they have whiteness in their back pocket.
Right.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
We welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. Unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk
and we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change.
Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience. As we fight these interlocking injustices together,
when we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third Reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.